Before we get to the next few chapters where we're going to be looking a lot at changing the color of objects, I want to show you how to create something called a reference monitor, which will be very useful in this process. A reference monitor allows you to look at the original as a reference while you're changing the color. Now let's say, for example, in this big project, which we'll be looking at throughout this training series, I have these robots here and I've applied kind of a green tint to them so that it would blend in a little bit with the green explosion in the background. But I might want that to be a little bit more saturated or a little bit less saturated. However, with this composition selected in the timeline panel, I'm going to tap the Shift key and hit the right arrow key to go to Big Comp. And I know that these robots are in the Pre-Comp Left Stuff composition. So I'm going to use my arrow keys again to navigate to Pre-Comp Left Stuff so that's highlighted, and then hit the Return key or Enter key. Now in this Pre-Comp Left Stuff composition, which then opens, I have this Eddy Technology layer, Eddy Technology being the name of the robot. And what I can do is now go up to the Effect Controls panel. So let's go ahead and click the little arrow next to the name of all these effects to close them up and to make this panel a little bit cleaner. And actually, let's go back into Tritone. That's the effect that we're interested in here. And this blend with original determines the amount of green tint. It's actually set up backwards, so if we increase the blend with original, it's going to become more chrome, the original color of these robots. And if we take this to the left, they're going to become tinted more green. The problem is that I'm not really sure what this is going to look like with the green fire. So a reference monitor will allow us to see what these robots will look like in the final composition. Here's how we do this. I'm going to select the timeline panel, tap the Shift key, and tap the left arrow 2 times to go to the Master Comp composition. Then what I'm going to do is go up here to the composition panel and click the lock icon. That will lock this view, so no matter what else I do down here in the timeline panel, this view will stay the same. So now I'll go back to the timeline panel and select it, tap the Shift key once again, tap the right arrow twice, go to the Pre-Comp Left Stuff composition, kind of a tongue twister there, and go ahead and hit the Enter key to open up that comp as before. Now again, our view has not changed. That is, here in the composition panel, of course the timeline panel has changed because we're looking at a different composition. So now if I go to the Tritone effect and I adjust blend with original and see what these robots look like with a little bit more green in them. Or I could take this maybe up a little bit higher. Let's type in 85%. And in doing that, there's now much less green or much less of the tritone effect. Their natural gray tone kind of complements the background a little bit. Now, whatever you decide to do with the robots, that's an artistic choice, but the point is that it's really beneficial to be able to see what the final product looks like while you're working on these separate pieces. Now, there's another way that we can create somewhat of a reference monitor to see a before and an after, and in order to do this, I'm going to go to the File menu and click Revert. Revert will take this After Effects project to the last saved version. Everything that I've changed will be erased, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here using the middle mouse wheel. Alternatively, you could use this zoom drop down over here on the left at the bottom of the composition panel. I'm also going to take this quality drop down to auto. Now, as we're looking at these robots, I want to fine tune them, but I want to see a quick before and after of what they look like tinted more with green and tinted less with green. So what I'm going to do is go back into that composition. I'm going to do that by selecting the timeline panel, tapping the Shift key, hitting the right arrow key on the keyboard twice, and going to Pre-Comp Left Stuff again and go ahead and clicking that there. Now what I'm going to do is down here at the bottom of the composition panel, I'm going to click this snapshot button. It says take snapshot, looks like a little camera. Go ahead and click it. Makes a cool little camera noise. And I'm going to select the Eddy Technology layer again, go back to the Effect Controls panel, and again in the Tritone effect, which you could clean up this Effect Controls panel if you want, there's a lot going on here. Let's take the blend with original value down to 40%. Now, if you weren't paying attention, that might not be too drastic of a change. But if we use our snapshot, which we can do by coming down here to the bottom of the composition panel and clicking this little figure button, which is Show Last Snapshot, we click that, we hold it, and it shows us the before. So here's the after the change and before the change. So this way we can see that actually was a pretty drastic change, before and after. When you're color correcting, especially when you're new to color correcting, you have a tendency to overdo things a little bit. It's just human nature. So these reference monitors kind of keep you in check. Make sure that you have a reference to make sure that you don't go too crazy with your color adjustments.